Welcome to TLDR. I am your host, Hunter Guthrie, small business owner and financial wizard.
And your co-host, Jake Webster, real estate advisor and entrepreneur.
We connect Alaskans with the leading voices in business and entrepreneurship and the experts that helped them get there.
Brought to you by Coho Financial, Vested AK Real Estate Advisors, and recorded at the First Rate Financial Studios.
Today we are joined by Megan Sawtelle. I actually don't even know how to say your last name. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it, Sawtelle.
Perfect. Because the last guest, I might have butchered his last name, and I know him, so it's great.
He's a gracious guy, though.
Yeah. And she is a founder of a great company here in Anchorage, which is AK Lean Virtual Assistants. And assistant or assistants, which is it, actually?
Assistants.
Assistants. Okay. That's probably better because it's not just assistant.
Yeah, no, we do more than just admin.
Yeah, perfect. And she has had this business for 3 years and is now doing pretty dang well. And she's also part of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. So welcome onto the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. So obviously your name is pretty descriptive for your business, but you want to tell us a little bit more about what your business is and what you do?
Yeah, so we have two primary focus areas. We provide the virtual assistant administrative support, mostly to small businesses, startups, and consultants. But we also do document automation building. So if you can think about, like, if you were to do a will and you wanted to include kids or things like that, the lawyer has to fill out umpteen bazillion different forms in Word. So we build a survey-like flow, and it'll add and remove things as they're filling out the documents. So if you have kids, it'll say, give this kid a truck, or give, I don't know, maybe you spoil this other kid and they get $1,000. It'll change the information based on how you fill out the survey. So lots of document automation.
I think that's pretty dang useful, though.
It sounds useful. Like, it may just be document automation, but that solves a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. A lot of time saved.
Yeah.
Where did this idea to start a virtual assistant company start? Where did that come about?
Oh, goodness. It started, I was going for my bachelor's program, and I would have been, like 26-ish or something. And we had to do a capstone. It was for, I was going to school for small business management entrepreneurship. And at the time, I was a single mom, and my son is on the spectrum. And I was thinking about what business would let me stay at home. And so I created this whole business plan based off being a virtual assistant. Graduated, they said it was a great business plan, and I promptly threw it in a drawer and forgot about it. I was like, are you kidding me? I need insurance. So I went and worked for the state. And then, 8 years with the state, I got to a point in my career where I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want the bureaucracy of the state. And I'd rather be disgruntled employee. I found that plan that I'd shoved in the drawer, and I said, I guess we're doing this.
Hey, that's how we start, right? You just got to jump for it and do it.
Yeah, my husband wasn't too happy about that, though. He's like, you could have given me more than 2 weeks notice that this what we were doing.
There's probably a lesson there, right? As a business owner, you're like, hey, so I'm going to be swift and nimble and make all these changes all the time. I guess I have to communicate this to you too, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
He was gracious, though.
Yeah, that's a plus. Because, the business owner journey, it's not full of bumps or, no money or anything like that, right? That's great all the time.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
There's no struggles.
There's no struggles, yeah.
Thick sarcasm.
Yeah, very thick.
You're going to get it. I am a very sarcastic individual.
Yeah. Well, that's why we get along. That's actually an interesting point. How have you learned to communicate with your spouse about just being a business owner? Because I don't think we've ever talked about that before.
Yeah, that's an interesting, we talk about partnership, but we don't talk about it in that way, or haven't yet. Yeah,
no, well, so my husband is not a partner in the business and won't be. Him and I can't even agree on what couch we want to buy, let alone running a business together. So we're very clear that it will never be a partnership. But it is a lot of communications. It's a lot of coordinating schedules. He has a job where he frequently has to travel. And so we have to be down dirty and honest about it. Some days it's like, hey, what are you doing? And other days it's like, I'm doing this. You're going to be home with the kids. And it's a balance. You know, we have to be able to have that openness both ways. There's a lot of Post-it notes that get stuck to the fridge, or, you know, notes left on car dashboards saying, don't forget to buy milk. But it's, you have to laugh at it. Like, we have a lot of laughter. And sometimes he puts up with me going crazy because being a business owner is hard. So some days it's nice civil conversations, and some days it's me going, blah, just take the kids. But yeah, it works.
It works.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, you have to figure out the balance, right? And you're busy, and a lot of time you probably spend a lot of time up here. So all those little things like picking up the milk, all that stuff, like that just, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that because I was thinking about something else I need to do.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for you guys. I am not in that season of life, and I don't know how I'm going to have the time for it, because it feels like I don't have the time for it now. That is, yeah, lots of...
You just make it work. That's all it is.
It, yeah. So with AK Lean, how many employees do you have right now?
Including me, I have 7.
Okay.
And we have 2 in Georgia, 1 in Mississippi, and we've got myself, 2 employees, and my son up here in Alaska. So I actually employ my son as a way for him to learn about how to be a good employee, about running a business. And so that kind of answers the question, how do you do it? Is I involve them. I let them see what the behind the scenes looks like.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to help. Yeah. So much with the kids, and you're going to be able to teach them a lot. Or hopefully they learn. You know, it's the, you can try.
Just learn to format an email. I've done my job.
Well, I remember when I was young, my mom, I mean, I didn't know what was going on at the time, but she taught me how to do some administrative tasks, like how to write an email, like you're talking about, how to address a letter, how to fold the letter. She was a fan of like classic old. She was an old soul, as I am, and so we do the wax stamp thing, or the wax seal thing. Cool. Yeah, so little things like that I'm like, man, I didn't realize that this isn't something that everyone learned, and how to communicate. I mean, she was a salesperson. We got to see that. And again, she was a single mom, but working in the home, doing a lot of those sales positions, we got to see her in action a lot. So that was a very helpful thing for me.
Definitely. No, they'll see me at home working, or they'll come to the office with me. Or yesterday I had to go to meet a client very last minute, and they're like, hey, can you come and help us with something? I was like, great, but you're going to get Megan mom. Like, I'm going to have my kids in tow. And sure enough, we went to the bank with this client with 2 kids in tow, and they get to see those things.
And do you feel like that is pro con? How is that just a cost that you're willing to make, or does it really affect the business?
I'm always really upfront with my clients and the fact that I wear multiple hats, because not only am I a mom, but I'm also a homeschooling mom with my older son. And so I make it very apparent. I'm like, if you call me in an unscheduled meeting, there's a good chance you're either going to have kids screaming or dogs barking. And most of my clients are really cool with that. And a lot of them actually like that I have that relaxed feel as a mom, as a business owner, because it gives a certain amount of grace. They don't have to be perfect around me. And so a lot of them really lean into that and understand. And, there's going to be business owners that don't like that I blend those lines so much, and that's okay. Maybe I'm not the person for them. I'm not the admin for them. But most people really appreciate it, and my employees appreciate it because I extend the same grace to them. The way AK Lean works is it really is built around their lives. Like, work is a secondary thing for them. And so they've got the freedom to live these lives the way that they should be, not having to squeeze doctor's appointments in. Instead, you schedule your work around the doctor's appointment. And a lot of businesses I've found have that I've challenged that traditional kind of thought process about families and businesses.
Yeah. It's not, so you're setting expectation right from the get-go, and you're willing to let some clients go based on that boundary. That I assume there's something like that, and I just like to hear that from your perspective, because there's a lot of people that think they can't hold those boundaries. They've got to be available all the time. They've got to compromise their family or those boundaries to do what the client wants. And it's, if you start with it in the beginning and just set that expectation.
I didn't start with it in the beginning. It was a hard lesson learned, because remember, I came from the state where you give your firstborn child over to the state, and depending on where you work. And so it wasn't there from the beginning. And I absolutely did. I let clients dictate my entire existence. And it took that communication with my husband to be like, hey, this is not a good balance. And so I had to do backpedaling, and it was a pretty hard pill to swallow with some of my clients. And I did lose a couple, but my mental health was better. My kids are better. My husband is not as stressed out. I mean, I'm a bit to handle anyways, but it was worth setting those boundaries, but it was hard to backpedal. I wish I would have done it right out of the gate.
That's helpful. That's helpful to hear that. The other thing in that, and this just came up, I was listening to a real estate investor that I follow, and they're talking about hiring VAs. And he had this experience where he had a VA he was paying for 8 hours a day, and he found out she was working for 2 other clients for 8 hours a day. And she explained that she works 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours individually for each client, and then that's her day. What is that? 16 hours? No, 20. That's too many hours.
It's too many.
You're not working.
Yeah.
That's 24 hours. Yeah. So how do you? I imagine that people are concerned if they're not keeping track of you, and then secondarily, you keeping track of your employees, giving that freedom. How are you able to do that with both your employees and your clients? So are you using metrics, KPIs to manage your employees? And then the other part of that is how do you handle those objections? Is there anything else besides setting the expectation that you're doing to show them that you're working hard and their money's not being wasted? They're not just paying for 8 hours and getting one.
Right. No, so we track all of our time, both myself and my employees. We use tools like Toggle Track or QuickBooks Time. I think that's what they rebranded to. So we track everything. When my staff are working, I expect that they clock which client they're working for and what they're doing, so that I can give an itemized report to the client and say, hey, this virtual assistant did this task and they spent 6 hours on it. We utilize check-ins like Slack. When they're working that day, I expect my employees to just throw in hey, I'm here, this is how I feel today, in our morning check-in Slack. And so there's a lot of really open communication. There is a lot of tracking involved with their clients. Most of our clients work more on an actuals base rather than that retainer. So they're only paying for the moments that we are actually doing the work. And that does help to build some of that trust as well. So right from the get-go, when people work with me, we'll talk when we're in the contract and negotiation phase of, what do you need? If you need this extreme reporting, it's better to do actuals. If you want us to be almost like an on-call, like say we're doing phone support with you, where the phone could ring anywhere between this hour and this hour, then we will put you on a retainer, because we can't predict when that phone is going to ring. So it's a lot of conversations with the client, understanding what kind of support they want. And then I pair them with someone on my team that I know can match that. Like if I know someone's working a part-time job somewhere else, I'm going to be conscientious and say, okay, this person can't take on this super needy client, but they can take on someone who needs like social media post scheduled that could be done at 3 a.m. in the morning if they want. So there's a lot of conversation both with what the employee needs and what the client needs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So lots of flexibility on both sides are needed is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And it just sounds like at the end of the day, there's a cost both to yourself, your employees, and your clients, and just having clarity on what you're saying yes to and the cost behind that. That's an abundance mindset. I think there's a lot of business owners that just don't see hey, you don't have to say yes to every client, right?
Well, I wish more business owners understood that you're not going to be the solution for everybody, and you shouldn't be. You're going to stress yourself out if you're trying to be the solution.
You can say that one more time. I need to hear it one more time.
You are not the solution to everybody, and that's okay.
Thank you. Someone else needs to hear that too, I'm sure. I get caught in that, the people pleaser and you don't see it point blank. I'm making a bad decision. It feels like you're making the right decision. And culture might even reiterate that that's the right decision. So it's kind of hard to pedal backstream. Man, my chair is just...
you
glad we have video for these moments now.
Yeah. It just didn't like you there. It just was like, I'm gonna fall down.
Right. I just like the dynamic there. Is this your home office?
Kind of. We moved houses, so technically my bed is back there, and I've got a master closet and a bathroom. So I'm kind of running this whole business from a hallway when I'm not in my actual office.
See, running a business, running a family, running like that is
Ready.
What are your keys to success? I mean, you've already shared a bunch, but I think that's a big. I'd love to go deep if you feel comfortable being transparent with some of those dynamics.
Go for it.
Yeah. So daily schedule. How are you time blocking? Are you how are you keeping track of everything? It's a lot to be.
It is a lot. My calendar is my boss. Despite having a bunch of different clients to keep track of, my calendar is my boss. And so if I've got meetings set, they're going to take priority for that hour, but I put everything in my calendar. So if I've got to get my kids somewhere, that goes in the calendar. If I have to run payroll, I've got a reminder to run payroll. I have reminders for me to eat, to drink, because I'm a little weird and I forget to eat sometimes.
You're not the only one.
Right. So everything goes in that calendar. And that's what I'm dictated by. And I firmly believe in a coffee before the kids talk to me. Like my children know if I have not drunk a cup of coffee, you just don't talk to mom.
Not yet.
Not yet. But I also, so I do like I like to get kids involved to the sense. So sometimes the kids will come with me to the office. So I blur those lines. The benefit is my older one is homeschooled. And so he can be in another room working on that. My daughter, she is a Spitfire. So if we're being fully transparent, there are some days she sits in front of that TV because I just can't. Like she'll be running and running and running and running. I'm like, no, you just need to sit.
Yeah.
And other days, she's creating things with glue and she's coloring and she'll be right next to me. And I think that a lot of moms need to hear that too, is that there isn't a right or wrong way to do it, or dads even, there's each day is going to be different. If you think working as a parent, running your own business, that, from 8 to 9, it's this, and from 9 to 10, it's this, you're stupid. I'm just going to be frank. You're stupid. Like there is no possible way to get little humans to behave that way, period, on not even in thinking about businesses, And so having that flexibility is the biggest way that I do it. Everything goes in the calendar, being flexible to, swing this way or this way. With my husband working outside of the house, I know that I've got the kids from this time to this time. If I've had a really cruddy day or if I've got major deadlines, some days he comes home and we're like, here's the kids, okay, bye. And I'm to the external office.
Yeah. Just need some space.
Right. And then I think the biggest part in balancing it all, and I'm not good at this, and I'll be the first to admit it, is that you can ask for help. Like I'm not good at asking for help, and we have family in town. And I think that is the key to making it all work, is whether you ask for help yourself or you have a very supportive spouse like me who will be like, I'm taking the kids to grandma's tomorrow. You need a break. I am taking them to grandma's house.
That's good. I think just practically, it'd be hard to compartmentalize your work and your kids if they're in the same place. So that seems pretty impossible. So that flexibility, which working virtually gives you a lot more of. But
and you need the ground rules too. Like my biggest secret is I have a stoplight. Oh, it's dying, but it's red and green. So my kids can peek in there and be like, okay, can I talk to mom? Can I not talk to mom? Even my 5-year-old understands what red and green means.
That's good. You got to figure out those little things, right? That make it work.
$15 on Amazon saves me a lot of headache.
That was my mom. Did I just cut you off?
No.
My mom made us, if she was talking to someone, we had to come up. You can't say anything. And we, like, if you wanted her attention, you weren't going to get it. She knew you were there, but she's not going to acknowledge you until she was ready. And that was the standard. And I think it's always easier to create it going forward than to go back and retrain bad habits. So, yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah. They're not going to look at your calendar and know when you're busy or not, right? So...
Even if they could, they wouldn't follow it. I mean, let's face it. They're kids.
Yeah. They're looking for mom. They don't want a calendar.
Right.
So where are you taking this? Is this something that you're trying to grow, or are you in what season is this business in?
Ooh,
it's a big question.
I always had the intent of having a business. I love having a team. So I do have W-2 employees. I don't have a team of independent contractors. I didn't expect to grow as fast. COVID really threw me through a dizzy. But we are still in a growth phase. My goal, and part of going through the Goldman Sachs program is you're looking at growth, but I want to have a virtual assistant and a workflow specialist in each time zone in the US so we can better support those small businesses. And so we are slowly working on those way. I'm in 3 time zones right now. So we're getting there, but we're still in a phase of growth.
That's awesome. Okay. So are you looking for anyone specifically in a time zone right now in case they're listening?
Central time zone, I'll be looking for a virtual assistant. I've got a workflow specialist there, but I don't have a virtual assistant. Good. So I will be looking in the central time zone at some point this year.
2022, just in case, but they may still be looking if you're listening to this in 2030.
I mean, it never hurts to send out a resume, right? Never hurts.
Right.
Where do you want to take this? This is go back to the VA. The VA structure, that platform just fascinates me because it is popular, but there are so many obstacles. And there's, mindset obstacles, retraining people. I think COVID was super beneficial for that because it forced people to do this, business owners to give up some control and see the value. But what would you, what are some of the biggest obstacles you've encountered? And then what would you say to someone who's looking at hiring a VA or starting to work virtually or... It's big. It's big. I keep asking these big questions.
Well, it's big, but it's 2 different directions. Like working virtually as a virtual assistant and what to advise people on how to work with a virtual assistant are 2 very, very different paths.
Yeah, let's do on how to work with a virtual assistant.
So how to work with a virtual assistant is difficult for a lot of people because it's really based around trust. I mean, you are pulling the curtain back and you're showing them the good, the bad, the ugly. Like if you are hiding things from your virtual assistant, it makes hard to get the support that you need, like the true, honest support. And so a lot of business owners have a hard time being candid like that, whether it's about finances or whether it's about a lack of processes or documents. They struggle with the transparency. And so if you're looking to work with a virtual assistant, the first step would be just be really honest with yourself and say, okay, I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to make sure that I am truthful with them because a virtual assistant isn't there to judge you. They're there to help you get where you want to get.
So it takes a little bit of learning.
It does. It takes stealing a word that I used to hear people at the state say, you need to coach people up. You're coaching upwards. So as a virtual assistant, you have to be able, regardless of who has hired you, be able to do kind of that upwards mentoring and helping them build that trust and being like, hey, I see you struggle with this. Talk to me about it. Can you take over the task? Sometimes you won't be able to take over the task, but it's teaching them to communicate to the people that they're helping.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big thing in the business owner world, is understanding which tasks are below your pay grade.
Yes, I am very fortunate to have a team that's not afraid to tell me that I shouldn't be doing something.
Yeah.
See, I live in the world of delegation. I teach people how to delegate and outsource, and I still have my team going, hey, Megan, you shouldn't be doing that. Let me do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you're teaching people, like, hey, like you're going through their process of being like, hey, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. But it's funny that you still, I guess that's the human thing. We still all do the same thing, right?
Right. Like, I'm so worried about keeping everyone else's house clean. Of course, mine's going to be messy because I'm expending all my energy making sure you're okay.
I mean, but the plus side is that your employees do the same, probably do something similar, so they can look back at you and be like, hey, they have that knowledge of how to take those things off your plate. So that's kind of a cool dynamic that you have there.
And you're allowing them. It sounds like you're allowing them. That's a huge thing for people who run a business, to give up control.
Yeah.
Well, it's the easiest way to keep them happy and to look at your business, like give them a say in the process. They come up with some great ideas that way. Like, we're working on a pilot project that was completely an idea for one of my staff. She came to me and was like, hey, I'm passionate about this. I have this idea. Can I tell you? And we talked it through, and we're building a pilot project around it.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I want that transparency.
Yeah. Wow. When we had Heather on, she basically said she pays for ideas from her staff.
Yeah,
because that's how valuable they are. So, and that's something that is a different train of thought, where a lot of times I think a lot of employees feel that they can't bring any ideas to the owner, boss, etc.
Right. That I think it always comes back to abundance mindset. Yeah. You seeing that you including and surrendering some things allows you to lead better and go farther, which means you're bringing your people farther too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so difficult when you're building a business to have that clarity and I mean, room enough to breathe, to think like that, because the scarcity mindset starts creeping in when things are hard and fast,
or just being a control freak.
That's valid.
I mean, that's my camp. I tend to want to control too much sometimes. And so that's a really hard thing for people, especially business owners, is they know they can do the work, trusting someone else to do it. That's one of the biggest hurdles with delegation. And so even in a business like mine, if I am super, super stressed, I will feel that same thing of like, I can't hand this to my staff because I need to do it. I'm stressed out. Like, I know I can do it, but I'm worth it. Well, I want to make sure I say this right. My time is more worthy in a different avenue. I should be focusing on something else.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I need to let that go, exactly for what you said. If I don't let it go, I can't focus on the strategic planning or the growth or things like pushing myself out of my comfort zone and talking to you guys while it's recorded,
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Are there any, tricks? Obviously what goes on in our head is unique to us, but are you recognizing when you're trying to control? Is it easier to see it? Are you able to flick something on in your brain, or are you? I know our last guest, Ken, had a checklist he used on how he made decisions and picked up new tasks. So it had to meet some requirements or some criteria. So that was a tool he used.
I will be the first to admit that I am at the beginning of that journey to try and develop something like that. Like, I'm really good at helping other people see it, but turning those tools inward is difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
So when I look at it and I think about it, I tend to try and put a price tag on my time and say, okay, if this task takes me 10 hours to do. What could I have done with that amount of money different? You know, could I have given my staff those 10 hours and they could have, you know, had a much bigger paycheck? And so I was taking hours from them by holding that control. Or could I have spent my time bringing in new clients to hire that virtual assistant in Central Time Zone? And so I try to put a monetary amount on whatever task I think I need to own, and then really look at it and say, no, letting my staff have that bigger paycheck is more important than me having the control over this.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Now, my favorite example of that is if you write down the tasks that you do, and then if you kind of know how much money an hour you make, which is hard as a business owner, but you have to quantify your time to do this. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, this task is not worth my time. This task's not even not worth, but it's not something that is a best use of your time.
Right. Like I'm the one who has to steer the ship ultimately. And if I'm focused on making a form to put on social media, like making a picture to put on social media, is that the best use of my time? Is that me steering the ship correctly, or am I getting distracted by the little bell in the ship while we're going towards the iceberg? Yeah. Like, I probably should be holding on to the steering wheel, not ringing the bell.
Yeah.
That's hard too. I mean, we talk about this, but it's such a common issue, and I like hearing different people's perspectives. But giving up a task, knowing that you can do it at this standard, and knowing that it's probably going to come back maybe here or maybe here. It
is hard. It is very hard.
Right. So you just got to do it?
Yes. So I have a very applicable example. Making fillable PDF forms. So when COVID hit, there was a ton of people who didn't have any of those forms. You know, they were in Word, or they dealt with people coming in person. And so one of the biggest things that happened when COVID hit is I had way more forms that needed to be created into Adobe fillable PDF forms. I have some OCD traits, like legitimate OCD traits with my disorder. And so I was doing like this quality up here. But the thing is, the client was expecting this. So I was setting my own mental, like, this is where it has to be. And it was overkill. It was overkill. But when I tried to teach my staff, I was freaking out if their quality wasn't up here, even though the client wants here, and they were right here. And so for a form, I was paying for my time critiquing them and nitpicking them. I was paying for double their time every time I made them do a change, but I wasn't charging the client that because I already gave them the price of what the form would be. And so I was actually spending money of my own money by holding on to that control. And it was backfiring. I mean, there's a lot of forms, but every time I would be like, this isn't right. Yeah. You need to move this form or this line over by like a 1/16 of an inch. That cost money for my employees' time because I'm not going to not pay them for the work.
Right.
And then I'm distracted and the client doesn't care. They're not going to realize that line is just slightly over.
Yeah, getting focused on the wrong metrics has been a theme too from a lot of guests.
Right?
what they think is going to get them there, and I'm guilty of it. I'm for sure guilty of it.
I think everybody's guilty of it.
Yeah, you creep into. I think so. I mean, there are people that it's like, what is it? What's the personality type? Ken is one of those people where he can make a move. There's people that can make the move and step out and do something knowing that it's not going to be perfect. And I have a hard time with that. Like, I really have a hard time with that. I want to be...
Perfection.
I want perfection. I want to do it the right... Not because I want some glory, but it's like, I know what I'm capable of. And if I don't hit that every time, I'm giving less than. You know, I'm doing a disservice, which is not true. It's not true.
It's a trap.
Yeah, it is a total trap. Yeah. Man, it's so interesting, too, because you can hear about all this, right? You can hear about people's struggles, these mindset things, have complete understanding at a conceptual level, the knowledge level. But when you're in it, yeah, I forget. I forget. I get caught up. The traps that come up, they don't look like the traps you hear about. They're subtle and they're sneaky and they're wrapped up in a bow that doesn't look like a trap. You know, it's a perfect trap.
You were talking to the queen of it. So I literally teach people when I do my yellow belt classes. Like one of the wastes when you look at processes is pretty much in simple terms, it's gold plating. It's overdoing it. It's doing more of than what the customer asks. Like I teach a class on this stuff and I still wound up doing it on the forms. 100%.
That's it. There's nothing, you can't take experience, like knowledge has value and experience has value and they're mutually exclusive. I think. I mean, not mutually exclusive, but you need both. You need the experience to actually apply the knowledge and get the truest understanding of that knowledge, I think. And I'm a analysis paralysis kind of guy by nature. I'm not anymore, but I have to acknowledge it and fight it. And so, yeah, I've experienced way more growth by stepping out and making the failure.
I'm a little bit of both. It really kind of depends on what's going on. Like I am the person who will also be like, oh, okay, you want to like do this crazy thing and you want me to jump on a skateboard? Okay, sure, why not? Whatever. Like, did I think it through? Absolutely not. Did I get injured? Yeah. Was it fun? Kind of. But then you look at certain things like the forms and total paralysis. It had to be perfect. So I think I'm a little bit of, it depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
That's fair. So, I mean, do you involve like strategic coaches or anything when you're working with somebody, or is that kind of a role you just take on your own, I suppose?
Are you talking internally?
Yeah, well, just like as you work with a client, because it sounds like even though you're virtual assistants, it also sounds like you're doing a lot of actual business planning and strategic development as well, along with that. On your own business. Well, right? on her and other people's as well.
So I am in kind of a unique situation that I have a lot of those training and the skill sets to do that too. Like I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. I have a lot of education around building small businesses and around management. And when I was at the state, for most of those years, I was a supervisor and I was an admin supervisor. I was an admin officer. So I've got all these, despite being fairly young, I've got all these like really hefty experiences. And so it does, when I work personally with the client, there is a lot of interweaving between, this is admin work and this is business work or strategic planning. But I also intentionally train my staff in Lean Six Sigma. So they are at the yellow belt, they're at the basis. Mm-hmm. So when we're in a client's processes, we're doing the process that they asked us to do. We're paying invoices or we're building documents, but they're trained to look at the process to be able to talk to the client and say, hey, you're doing this. Do you know that there's a better way to do this? You could take this step out and do this over here and save some time or save some money. And so my staff and I are trained to look at those processes while we're doing them to be able to offer just kind of that guidance and assistance. Because at the end of the day, most business owners are winging it. Like they say, I need to do this. We're going to Google how you do this. And then you end up with some half-baked form that you need. And so we try to make sure that we are giving suggestions while we go along to make sure that they are the best business that they can be.
That's a huge value add. That is a massive value add.
That's massive. Yeah. I was going to say, because I think a lot of people probably think just you get it as any admin, you get an admin and you teach them, you delegate to them, and maybe they add back to your process and add direction. But you definitely are in that process. You are saying, hey, this is the way to do it, or here's an idea of how to do it. Do you think that sets you apart from most VAs? Because I don't really know in that world.
It lands us in a really weird situation sometimes, if I'm speaking with 100% truth, because especially with COVID, there's a lot of more virtual assistants out there. And if you're providing admin at this level, it's one price point. If you're doing what's called office management, which is more of like supervising the daily ongoings of a business, you're up here. And we're somewhere in here. So sometimes people realize what value it is that we bring to looking at processes, and they're fine paying our rates. And then you have other people come in and go, whoa, you're way too expensive. You're doing virtual assistance work. I'm going to pay you at this rate. Mm-hmm. So it really kind of depends on the business that's looking to hire us, whether they fully understand that. And it's something I'm working on, is better communicating that. Because while you guys picked it up immediately, I'm not always the best at explaining it. And so it's kind of this weird, we end up in a weird zone depending on if I explain it right and if they understand it.
So, I mean, you just got to market yourself as you can be a for-hire COO. That's it.
We're everything. Are you kidding me? Yeah. We're superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's I love VAs conceptually, and I mean, just generally, like I love that. I wasn't a virtual assistant, but I worked virtually. Mm-hmm. And what it did for me as an employee was amazing. And I have the utmost respect for people who do that and do it well, because the people who do it well are accountable and they're purposeful. They're working really hard. But there is always this hesitation when I say VA, like it's someone over in another country who they're going to have to train from scratch. They may have industry knowledge, they may not. Mm-hmm. And are they going to communicate clearly? How's that going to work? I mean, there's all these objections or fears that people have. So I can imagine a client coming in looking for a VA, and they see your price point. And it's like,
well, and it's a thing. And the first year, almost 2 years, I was operating up here. Absolutely. Right before COVID hit, I would go and do presentations on what is a virtual assistant, not as what my business is, but what is a virtual assistant? Because the first thing out of people's mouths would be like, wait, you live here in Alaska, yeah. In Anchorage. I'm like, oh yeah, I live over near, so-and-so place. And they're like, here, you're not visiting.
My time zone. Not, you don't have a passport.
Right. And so the first part of my existence was just explaining to people that I'm here, that the lower 48 is already using virtual assistants that are US based. Like, it's a thing, but once again, Alaska is historically a little bit behind. And so that was my whole first year, is just trying to explain what on earth I was and what I did.
Yeah, it's a little more interesting in Alaska. Because that is a very progressive concept.
Yeah.
Very, very progressive concept. And so I could see that taking a little more time to gain traction, but it sounds like you've been able to clarify.
COVID kicked that can wide open.
Yeah. That's, man. So you're allowing people to work from home. You're not providing them any sort of remote workspace, any of that?
We have an office here in Anchorage physically that my employees who live here are more than happy to come and work. But my standard is, I don't care where you work. If you've got internet access on a beach, you go work on a beach. You could totally go code documents on a beach.
I loved it.
So my standard is, as long as your clients, because my staff have clients that are assigned to them. It's like, as long as your clients are happy and you're getting the work done, I don't care when you work or where you work. If you're a night owl and you want to work at 2 a.m. in the morning, more power to you. As long as you've got the quality work and your clients are taken care of, I don't care. Go on that vacation and work in the mornings before you go out and do your things. Like, that's that kind of piece where I really try to make my staff understand that your life is your life, and that needs to be the priority. Mm-hmm. The work will be there, So if you have a doctor's appointment at 2 p.m., go to the doctor's appointment and just do the work when you get home or wherever. So I really don't care. You could be road tripping. Actually, one of my staff is going to be road tripping this year. And it's like, as long as you can guarantee that you're getting your work done and your staff is happy, go for it.
Yeah, you may have some discomfort. I remember going to Hawaii and then not realizing that I had a meeting in the East Coast, or maybe it was Central Time. But it was a 6 a.m. meeting in Hawaii, which I was not mad about. Sunrise and
right.
a beautiful.
You were slightly mad, and you're like, all right, that's actually not that bad.
I gotta wake up 6 a.m. coffee. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm good. It was epic. But I mean, what it does for an employee, we've talked about this with some other guests, but the freedom. I mean, you got to hire well, right? You got to hire.
You absolutely, yeah. Hiring a lot of my staff right now actually has some sort of personal connection to me. Like, two of my staff members are actually a mother and a son that I knew from years ago. And one guy I've known since, oh gosh, I don't know. I was like 6 or something.
Wow. So a lot of trust.
Right. So my initial like hirings were very close to heart because of that amount of freedom that I want to have for my staff. But it also allows them to do what they want to do. Like I've got a single dad on my staff. I've got a college student on my staff. I have a retiree Air Force wife on my staff. Like it allows them to be who they are and not like the biggest thing when I was a single mom was trying to find childcare, trying to work full time, like all of those things. I had to choose, and I missed a ton of my son's life those first years.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to choose that. And so I try to make it to where my staff can be fully who they are as a person, not as a worker or as a college student, but like they are a person and it should work together.
Yeah. Yeah. And it articulates the productivity. I mean, you have a happy employee that feels supported and empowered and not controlled as much. You got to have some control. But that
you have to have some control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also terrifying. I mean, allowing this type of model, if you have a wrong hire, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it in a drastically painful way. So I take a lot of time when I'm looking at hiring.
That sounds like wisdom.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not a bad thing. I mean, you're going to get the right people in the right place. And so, and you're probably, if you haven't made a mistake yet, I mean, you will eventually, and that's going to be okay.
She's made a couple.
Point, I will.
Yeah. Well,
she's been very transparent.
On the hiring part, at least, that's.
Yeah, touche.
And that's part of the journey, right?
It is.
So how long, you said this already, never mind. I was going to go down a different rabbit hole. I tend to do that.
No, never. I don't think you ever go down rabbit holes or nothing like that.
Sarcasm. You're so good at it. So what can we be helping you with? I think we've covered our main question, which is what is the most horrible experience of your life and how did you turn it around, essentially?
Yeah.
You were very transparent, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that is helpful for a lot of people. And I mean, I'm gonna start plugging you. VAs with business experience, or at least office management experience, systems processes. Having that is man, I would have a lot more confidence hiring a VA, because even that we've been talking about doing it with our company and bringing someone on and training. There's an amount of training that will have to happen, period, but having someone with a baseline.
Oh yeah, that is going to happen regardless. And that kind of comes back to my hiring. I try to be strategic in who I hire, in the sense that we have so many different experiences with industries. Like we have staff who have done burlesque performance. We've had 911 dispatcher. We've got retired military, government working, suicide hotline prevention lines, accounting. Like I try to make sure that we're dynamic, so we have that lived experience in the different industries. Whether it's me or one of my staff, someone on there can shed light to what the client does. And so when you work with Kayleen, you get an assigned virtual assistant, but you also get that entire team. So my team knows they can throw the question on the Slack message and say, hey, I don't know what this term means that my financial client is saying. Who knows what this means? Like, what is this?
Wow.
And they can answer back and they won't be judged. They might be poked fun a little bit and go, what? But they know they'll be supported and they can ask that question.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Awesome. It's a huge, I'm sure that helps alleviate some of the concerns that you are local and you're a VA. Because I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of people. Like
it
you're
is.
saying. you expect somebody out of the United States that you may not be able to communicate well with, that has some issues that makes it a little harder to work with them.
I think you have. It is nice, like having you here to get over that Alaska mindset of I don't know, aversion to VAs. is nice.
It's the version of technology. Let's be real.
But I want to encourage people to step out even farther and not let that be a disqualifier. Because having someone that you don't have to check in with personally in person, there's a benefit to that, you know? Mm-hmm. There's a benefit, I think, mostly to the person you're working with. I don't like being micromanaged. I know that
very few people like that.
Yeah, there were periods in time where I knew that I was meaning not for myself or the benefit of the company. It was the insecurity of the person I was meeting with, and so, I mean, I think you sound like you're willing to do that, and you have to help your clients in the ways that they want to be helped. But for people that are concerned about hiring a remote VA, I mean, the cost is worth the reward. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
each business is going to need something different. Each business owner will need something different. It's like the biggest thing I like to stress to businesses who are looking to do remote work is like, don't let the terms VA or freelance or online business manager remote affect you, because there's a time and a place. If you just need help on one project, guess what? A freelancer is probably going to be a better option. You know, they come in, they help with the project, they leave. Mm-hmm. If you need a relationship and you need someone who really understands your business, that's where the virtual assistant comes in. Whether they are here in Colorado or in another country, like the relationship is what you're looking for. And then if you need someone to manage your admin staff and your functions, then you're looking for an online office manager, someone to be a little bit of that micromanager and saying, hey, did you get this done? Or let's do this. And they all do very different things. And I think people try to lump all of them into virtual assistant and not really understanding that they are different types of support.
Yeah. And it's one of the big benefits. It's scalable, right? Maybe you only need 5 hours a week right now, and then it's 10, and then it's 15. It's hard to hire somebody who only wants to work 5 hours a week, you know, full time, or like not as full time, but like to keep somebody like that.
Right. So we mix it up. We might have one VA that's got this client who does 5 hours a week, but this client wants, 15 or 20. Yeah. Okay. They can serve the same client. That's fine.
That's powerful.
Yeah. Cause it's that's a big, if you're starting out, especially, feels like a huge hurdle to hire your first person because you're expecting to pay them 40 hours a week.
Yeah. That's what people make those decisions based on a part-time or a full-time. And it's like the quality of professional that you get at a part-time, I mean, it's not great.
It's not, usually.
Not usually.
Right. Well, and that's a really big reason why I have W-2'd employees, because I went for about a year, I went back and forth. Because a popular model for virtual assistant businesses is to have a whole bunch of independent contractors kind of white labeled under one person. And I decided that I wanted to do W-2 employees because I wanted to give clients the satisfaction of knowing that, hey, I'm watching this person. I am responsible for their hiring and firing. I am responsible for their pay. Mm-hmm. And so that gives me the amount of control to look at these clients and say, okay, yes, you only need 5 minutes. You're a baby startup. Let's do this. I compare you with this person who's got this client who is, using them for 20 hours a week. We can fit you in. So it allows me to be kind of that Band-Aid for a lot of the smaller businesses. And they do grow into bigger clients eventually. Mm-hmm. But if they're looking at other virtual assistants who are a whole team of independent contractors, everyone is vying for a piece of that pie, because they don't have any fallback. So I went with an established W-2. It's more expensive to me, but it gives that peace of mind to the client.
Yeah. Super powerful.
That's so interesting.
And trained, and they're well trained on top of that. So
they are trained.
I almost wanted to pause and let's get a breakdown on VAs and why you need them and who they are. And
that's like episode 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we need to have you on.
That's your whole entire workshop you were teaching, right? So.
No, that's Lean Six Sigma. That's what I'm teaching over there.
No, got it.
We're gonna have to get that. I want that. So what can we be doing? What can the listeners be doing for you to be supporting the business? It doesn't sound like you're looking for employees right now.
Not right now, no. My ask really always is to help take away the scariness of the term VA. Like I I could come to you guys and say, hey, throw my name out there. We want more business. But at the heart of it, I just want people to understand that it's a real industry. There's a lot of great people. For every bad experience you have, there's 4 or 5 virtual assistants that are good. And it's the only way it's going to get easier is if the silos are broken down and people understand that there isn't as much of a taboo of hiring someone remote as there used to be.
Yeah.
So my big ask isn't necessarily for Kayleen, but it's just for the whole industry. Just, it's real. It's legit. We're in the process of becoming accredited with the Better Business Bureau. So it's there. It's not going away.
Yeah.
Are there any key clients or businesses or industries you're trying to niche into?
Well, I guess a little teaser. We are starting to move towards the burlesque and performance industries. We are looking to do a pilot with them. So we want to pair up with a business who might want a little bit of admin support and feedback to what that industry would need, because it's kind of an untapped industry when it comes to admin work. Like, it's just not something people think about that needs administrative work. Mm-hmm. But every flippin' business needs administrative work. Every single one.
Yeah.
You will not give me an example that doesn't have admin work.
Right.
So we're looking into the performance arena to see how we can support them.
And that, I mean, I didn't ask this before, but do you have a minimum part-time entry for a business?
Like
you mentioned 5 hours, but like, is there a minimum that you need people to commit to work with you guys and make it profitable for you?
So part of the reason that AK Lena split, that we have the document automation and we have the virtual assistants, is because it allows us to get those smaller clients supported. So our contracts, we do retainers, but we also have, I call it kind of our no commitment contract. You can sign a contract with us for a year and you can use us in January and disappear till June and then pop back up and need support again. And we're okay with that. Like, we have built structures to make sure that that doesn't negatively impact us financially. So there isn't necessarily a minimum, but it's nice to have that peace of mind knowing that you can reach out to someone and say, how do I do this? How do I use Adobe PDF?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So we're really flexible. At the heart of it, we're a bunch of admin nerds who want to make sure everyone else is supported. Like, that truly is the heart of us.
I love it.
We're going to have to get you, as we do with, we're supposed to do with every guest, get you plugged into the Facebook group in case people have questions for you or want to connect with the business. I feel like I've brought up every objection I've received when I've heard or talked with people about VAs. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention from your perspective, as far as objections, at least from clients or customers?
The biggest objection I think I've heard is that my business can't be delegated. There's nothing in my business that can't be delegated, or I don't have admin work. Like, I've heard almost every industry go, I don't really have admin work. Then we start talking, do you pay invoices? Do you email people? Do you create Zoom calendars? Do you meet with people? They're like, oh, yeah, we do all that. I was like, then you have admin work. Every one of those tasks can be delegated to someone else.
It was their work before.
Right. So what I like to say we do is say, what's your to-do list? And they'll tell me like 20 things they've got on your to-do list. I was like, great. You don't want to do them. You shouldn't be doing them. We like to do them. I have people who like to go and just enter things into Excel. I've got someone on my staff who loves cold calling people. It's like, that to-do list, most of it does not have to be you.
Wow. See, that's even helpful too. From day one, you can have a call and you can clarify with someone who may be in pain, overwhelmed, or taking on too much and they're not even aware. And with your skill and your education and your experience, you can come in as a business owner in that VA position. That's phenomenal. That's coaching.
It flirts that line.
Yeah, it does. My goodness.
That's what I was asking about. I'm like, I see that you don't come in and just get told. You don't get told what to do. You guide them on.
I don't fit into boxes. I don't
Yeah.
fit into boxes very well.
Ladies-
I've got to have those poke holes to be something else, so they're just a VA.
Yeah.
Our listeners need to reach out before your hourly goes up.
Yeah.
I anticipate that's going to change.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Megan. Hunter, do you have anything?
No, I think that's good. That's a great episode.
Yeah, that was a lot of value, and I really appreciate you going so deep. There was a lot of transparency, which is what we aim for. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you. This was fun. I'm glad I forced myself to do it.
Yeah, uncomfortable things are good things a lot of times.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Go ahead and give us a follow on our Facebook page if you'd like to stay connected. And if you want to go deeper with us, join our Facebook group. And here you can join the conversation, share resources with each other, and network with other like-minded people like yourselves.
And if you know someone that would get value out of the episode today, we'd be honored if you shared the show with them. Until next time, progress over perfection.